Okay, here we go. So I'd like to introduce you to Erin McEndree. I've known Erin now almost, 3 years? 4 years?
Three or
Somewhere,
four.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I have just been so impressed by her love of the people she serves and how she brings God into the picture. You cannot have a single conversation with Erin and not be impressed with her love. And so with that, I'm just going to turn it over, and Erin, share a little more about your backstory, who you are and who you serve and what you do and the benefits people can walk away from.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Diane. So because of a death of a much loved man that I didn't even know, I didn't meet my parents for 7 days. I was whisked away from my birth mother as she tried to get a glimpse of me. But the nurse told her that I had all 10 fingers and all 10 toes and that I was perfect. But she cried and she cried and she cried because she didn't have an opinion and she didn't have a voice and she really didn't even have a choice. Her brother didn't even know what had happened until she was already home recovering from giving birth. And it was really never spoken of again in the family. All she could do was pray. My birth mother prayed for a good Christian family to raise her child. So me, I was in foster care for those 7 days until that much loved and respected man's funeral and all his goodbyes were over and complete. The operations finally got back to normal after 7 days. So if you remember, if you know, 7 in the Bible does represent completion and perfection. And so his life was complete, but mine was just beginning. So I know when my parents came, they had put me in this huge onesie that just completely swallowed me to meet my parents. And it was pink. And I don't even like pink. But my parents were called on day 7 to come and pick up their little girl. It was like, hey, what are you doing at 2:00 this afternoon? We need you to come and pick up your daughter. So it was 1973. And of course, they all dressed up in their Sunday best to come collect me. They had been praying and waiting for another child because I did have an older brother who they also adopted. It had been a struggle for them for years to have kids. There were tests and shots and hormones and tubal procedures and a lot of letdowns. And so they decided that adoption was the right choice for them. So my grandmother was in the hospital that day and they couldn't even take me to see her. But the doctor said that she healed faster than any person he has ever known from an appendectomy because she wanted to get home and see that baby. So the 3 of us, me, my birth mother, and my mom, we are all bound together by these, unbreakable tethers. We are all bonded together and they cannot be cut. They can only be managed and coped with and dealt with. So I do want to stress, though, that this scenario, it doesn't have to cause abandonment or rejection. It doesn't have to cause guilt or shame, and it doesn't have to cause fear or concern. I want to share the foundation that my parents held out to me and that I adopted back from them. And I also want to share how it affected my birth mother. And I know this approach works. So if you found some way to lose 50 pounds, wouldn't you tell your friends about it? I mean, especially after they're asking you what you've been doing and how good you look, wouldn't you tell them? I mean, you wouldn't keep it a secret. And what about if you were building a house and you found this builder that made your dream house a reality, and the process was so smooth? Wouldn't you tell them who that builder was? I mean, you wouldn't keep it a secret for your friends that were searching for the same thing. Well, I see adoptees struggle with feelings of not feeling like they fit in, of not knowing their purpose and their meaning. And a lot of them really even feel damaged. I hear birth mothers talk about the weight of remorse that they have, and not being worthy of feeling anything good in their life, and really how they are crushed when they have other children and they compare and wonder. And I know adoptive parents feel fear about reunions that might come up, or about wondering if affections are going to be diverted, or worrying about how much these biological families want from their child. So what if I told you that I knew a secret for peace in all three of these scenarios? What if I told you that you were one choice away from your journey to being healed and finding purpose and having contentment? I want you to have what I have. I don't want to keep it a secret. I want to guide you through this process, and I want to help you find your ideal self. I want to help you make your ideal self a reality. So no more secrets. I know my approach works, and I want to share it. So let me help you find peace and be steeped in purpose. I want you to experience acceptance and discover hope. Even in the not knowing, even when you don't even know the answers. I really feel the urgency in the last couple of years to share my story, because I realized that I was really one choice away from abortion. You are one choice away from beginning the process to overcoming your own struggles. And I want to help you with that. So with that being said, I am Erin E. McEndree. I was a school teacher for 7 years, and I taught speech pathology, and I taught some junior high, 2-year-olds, and I taught kindergarten. Then I was very blessed to stay home and to raise my 2 children, but I rarely stayed home. I attended Bible studies, sometimes even 2 during the week. I also taught Bible study on Wednesday night, and I developed 3 different women's retreats for my church. I started a blog in 2009, and I posted every single Thursday, and I have over 400 blog posts. I was also a freelance writer for a magazine where I interviewed people all over Parker and Tarrant and Hood County, and I wrote their awesome stories, and I met the most interesting people, and I loved that job. But as much as I really loved that job, in one day with one decision, I resigned from that job when they told the writers that we needed to water down God and even change quotes if necessary. And basically I quit on the spot and said, I'll finish up the 2 articles that I'm writing, but I'm done with that. I can't do that. I won't misrepresent the people I'm writing about. My time was complete. So I did write articles for about 7 other publications. And let's see, during that time, I also taught a Mother's Day Out program for 4 years. I'm still taking my kids to all their activities. And I was even the chair of 2 organizations, one at church and one at school. But let me tell you, in 2015, I stopped everything. I stopped the Bible studies. I really felt God saying, would you get back to doing what I told you to do in the first place? And so it was really hard to stop going to a Bible study, but I really felt God pulling me. I stopped teaching. I stepped down from being the chair of those 2 meetings that I went to, and I just prayed. And for 2 months, I said, God, there has got to be more. There has got to be more than writing this blog that no one reads and, teaching the women in Bible study that never share their struggles. That is so frustrating. There has to be more. And I am here. Lord, please use me. So God led me to become a life coach. And so for 6 months, I was taught by Dr. Katie Brazelton on a Zoom call. Every Thursday, we would do a Zoom call, and she would teach me what I needed to learn to be a good, productive life coach. And then I had to go practice that whole program on some women who were willing to do that with me for free. I also had to go do a 2-day life plan with Dr. Jody Walker in Frisco. So I stayed with her for 2 days. We went through this entire 2-day life plan with my goals and my fears and what I wanted to do with my life. And then I had to go do a 2-day life plan with a lady and plan her future and overcome her fears. So during all of this time, I was also navigating through these unknown waters, I guess you would say, of a reunion with my birth mother. And I was also trying to be very conscientious of my parents' feelings as well. Because I've always said, ever since I was little, if God wants me to have my birth mother in my life, then he's going to have to work that out. So I was content either way because I knew whose I was. But God did have a plan, and he was working behind the scenes and doing things that I didn't even know about. That's not to say that I wasn't curious a little bit. There were 2 or 3 times after high school that I was in the college library, or I was waiting for my husband to finish up a test or something, and I got on the computers in the library. And I would try to match up adoption records and birthdays, but I didn't have any success with that. And like I said, I knew whose I was. It was fine. I was content. But when I was 36 and I was at karate class with my kids, a friend of mine told me about finding her husband's birth mother. So I got curious again, and I searched again. I found a site where I could post about all my adoption information on a wall, and a search angel would look through public records and look through information to see if they could find any information. Well, within an hour, a search angel sent me a message saying, hey, if this is your birth certificate number, then this lady that's listed right here is your birth mother. Well, I had no idea where my birth certificate was. I had to go in the closet and look through some boxes and, take everything out of the closet. And I finally found that birth certificate, and the numbers matched. So within another hour, someone else had sent me her dad's obituary, and it had listed all of the family members on it. So within another hour, somebody sent me her Facebook photo. Well, I didn't even have Facebook then. So basically within 2 hours, I had all of this information where I could look her up, but I hesitated. And this is a key characteristic that I stress over and over, is why I hesitated. It was out of concern for her. I didn't want to turn her world upside down. I didn't even know if she was married, if she kept me a secret, if she had other kids, if they knew. I didn't want to destroy somebody else's life because I wanted to be selfish and know all the details. My husband looked on the internet, and he actually found her phone number, and he found her location. And I held on to this information for a while, until another angel named Gracie nudged me. So I have to share this story. So my birth mother's last name is Williamson. So You really need to know that detail. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Gracie is the owner of a Christian bookstore and a coffee shop, and I would go there and write my blog once or twice a week. So we were on a first name basis. I loved Gracie, and she made a great latte for sure. So when I was checking out and I was going to buy a book, she began to look up my information in the computer system, and she said, and I quote, "What is your name? I forgot. Is it Williamson?" And I was stunned, and I really began to cry. And she came around the counter and she gave me this huge hug, and she was like, "What in the world did I say? What did I say? I'm so sorry." And I told her that God had just spoken through her to me. And God was saying, "I have given you your birth mother. Would you call her?" So that night, it was a night in December, with my husband by my side, I called her. And a man answered the phone. And that was my biggest fear, was what if he doesn't know and he asks her who I was? That scared me the most. So I asked to speak to her, and I said, "Hello, my name is Erin. I have red hair and green eyes, and I was born in March. And I think you know who I am, and I would love to talk to you. But if this is going to open up a huge can of worms for you, I will be okay. So what do you want to do?" And I paused. And you know what she said? She said, "Can I put you on hold?" So we laugh about that now. But what she was doing, she had turned to her husband and asked, "This is my baby. Can I talk to her?" And to which he absolutely said, "Yes, talk to her." So we talked and we cried for about 10 minutes, and she was so happy that her prayers had been answered. I was happy. I had a husband. I had 2 kids. I found out that she never had any other children, but she did help raise 2 of her stepkids. So we exchanged email addresses, and we planned to write and send photos. I remember the first photo I sent of her. She didn't have very good internet access, and so the photo would come down in like 1-inch blocks on her computer. And she said her and her husband were going, "Oh, look at her eyebrows. They look like yours. Look at her eyes. They're green. Her nose looks like you," until they got this complete picture of my face. It was so funny. So now we really are very good friends. And we began our relationship looking forward, because we both decided that there was really nothing back there that we needed. Her and her husband now come to my kids' basketball and football and volleyball games, and they have come to my daughter's graduation party. My parents and she and her husband can all visit together, and they can enjoy one another's company, and it's really kind of cool. You know, it took about 9 years for that to happen, where they could all meet and be together. But I truly believe that being slow is better than building a foundation on some kind of rocky cement that's just going to crumble under the weight. So being patient was very, very important in this whole process. So during the last 11 years, I have been experiencing the peace that I needed to complete my thoughts in my book about adoption that I am writing, called Releasing What Tethers. And it's going to come out soon. I just know it is. So what I find most interesting, though, as I have been a life coach for 5 years, is even the ladies that are not tethered to adoption in any way, they have the same struggles as those that do. They feel like they don't fit in. They don't know their purpose. They don't feel like they have any gifts to share, and they're stuck in life because of maybe a bad choice they made, or maybe because of a bad choice that someone else made that is still affecting them. They just can't move forward. Their worries and fears keep them from standing up for themselves and pressing forward to their dreams. And I'm going to make a really bold statement that I can back up with my experience. And that is, I don't think that adoption has anything to do with the struggles that you have in life. Both women with adoption issues and women that don't have them have the same struggles. I have observed both. I have experienced both. And I believe I know what the issue is. I know the crux of the matter, and it is the same for everyone. And the issue that requires some kind of resolution has to do with how you react and respond to the cards that you have been dealt in life. There are some cards that you have no choice over that situation at all. You have no choice over what family you were born into, or your eye color, or even where you live. Some cards have divorce, and some cards you're dealt have cancer. Some cards have special needs, and some cards have fiery orange hair and horrific bullying, like-minded. Some cards have military parents. And yes, some cards that you hold have adoption. But some cards you are in total control of. And those are the cards that I want to focus on, the cards of action and reaction. You know, you can replace those cards of rejection with acceptance. You can replace the cards of fear with ones of understanding. You know, you do this by choosing how you respond to things that are out of your control. So one strategy is not to dwell on the what ifs. You know, what if your birth mother kept you? What if your parents didn't neglect you? You know, those kind of questions will drive you crazy. So let's say that you have a dice or a die with 6 sides. So I want you to pretend like on every part of that die are some kind of variable to your story. Maybe it's adoption. Maybe it is alcoholism or neglect or abuse. Maybe it's divorce or drugs. Maybe it's adoption issues with some guilt or some shame or even some secrecy. Or maybe it's that constant trigger with that new baby that you have. Maybe it's adoption and this constant judgment of people who look at you and think that your kid doesn't look anything like you. Or maybe it's a concern about future reunions that your child might have. You know, maybe there's loss or abuse or racism or even rape. Maybe it's shame and guilt and bitterness. Maybe it's rejection or denial. But if you put one of those words on that die, then you have 6 variables to your life. But let's say you have 2 dice, and that's 12 variables. And you know that's 36 different possibilities and 36 outcomes. But what if you change one variable? Then you have another 36 possibilities to think about. And so what if you have 3 dice with 18 variables? That's 216 possibilities. That if you change one variable or 2 variables, you can think of an entire new scenario and an entire new flow chart that your mind will keep you in this circle going round and round. The only thing you can control is how you are going to respond. So get off of that hamster wheel, because that won't give you comfort in all those different scenarios. It will just keep your mind spinning. It won't allow you to fill in any of the gaps permanently. So it doesn't bring comfort. And it's like endless flow chart, you know, that says, go back to the beginning and go back to the beginning. It's just crazy. But my program helps you change your responses to all of those situations in your life that keep you on that hamster wheel and keep you from contentment that I know you can find. So I just want to say that I always knew I was adopted. My parents made sure that I knew from the start that that was part of my identity. And they did some really smart things to lay a foundation of trust and unconditional love. I remember this one children's book that my parents read, and it was about a couple that wanted to have children but couldn't. So adoption was a solution for them. They treat, and you know, my parents and all my extended family, they didn't treat my brother and I any different than biological children. I know a story that my mom tells about my great grandfather, and he was asked by someone, you know, what's it like? I mean, is it different having adopted grandkids versus biological grandkids? And he firmly said, it ain't no different at all. They're all my kids. And he was very adamant about that. And he just stuck up for us. And I love that story. My family told hundreds of stories, and I bet I have heard some of them hundreds and hundreds of times. But these stories are my heritage. They are my past. And these stories I still tell my kids, and we laugh about them. I remember one story that I learned while I was actually watching a movie. It was a movie about the Mormons who slaughtered about 120 settlers that were moving to that were going through Utah in 1857. They were Arkansas travelers going to California. And I called my mom and I said, hey, Mom, I think you would really like this movie. It has John Voight in it. And it's about historical events that happened back in the 1800s. And I think you would really like this movie. And you know what my mom said? She goes, oh, I know that story. Your great, great, great grandfather was one of the settlers that was killed in that massacre. You know, he left his pregnant wife in Arkansas and told her that after he got settled and the baby was old enough to travel, that he would come back and get her. Well, she had my great, great grandfather. And then she later married a man who raised him as his own. But I couldn't believe that I had never heard that particular story in my family, but it was just very cool because, you know, it was turned into a movie. So I feel like that's just a really neat heritage and neat story that I have in my past. You know, some of my other stories though, you know, there was some affairs and there was some murder back in my family. There was also some Indians. And divorce, and even heroism. I have a little bit of it all. I have actually my grandfather's military flag from World War II is in a triangle box in my room. And that is such a precious, precious memory, and something that my mom passed down to me because I bought my grandmother that box. And so when he passed away, she wanted me to have that. And that really does mean a lot. So heritage, sometimes people get that mixed up with biology, but heritage is the traditions, the achievements, and the beliefs that are part of the history of your family. It could also be something that your descendants have access to or acquire, you know, from the predecessor, like the flag. You know, it's that foundation that you have, that you stand on. Adoptive parents give that heritage, and the parents that raise you give you that heritage. As an adoptee, you could choose to adopt that back, or you could choose to reject it. I have heard a lot of adoptees who completely reject the heritage that they have, but they're choosing a completely blank slate that they know nothing about and they can't even write on it. So I accepted being adopted because of the unconditional love. And really personally, I thought it was so cool. I thought it was cool. I would tell my teachers that I was adopted, and they would tell my mom, you know, do you know what your daughter said? And she would actually have to confirm it, that yes, she is adopted. You know, it felt good for me to have something that no one else had. That's another thing my parents did. Look around. Nobody has orange hair like you do. So you are so unique. And look around. Nobody else is adopted. You know, that's special. So I adopted that rich heritage that my parents told me about, rather than a heritage that I knew zero about. So there's good and bad, and there's ugly in my heritage. I chose, and I still try to not repeat the ugly. I want to learn from the bad stuff, and I want to embrace the good stuff and the good heritage that I have. And, you know, it's just fun to tell stories, and fun to look back and know what my heritage was. So my parents did a lot of things right. They did not keep my adoption a secret. You know, they didn't have to sit me down at some point when they thought I was old enough and drop this bomb of lies on me one day and secrecy. And I'm so sorry for the hurt that that kind of protection creates, and the way it makes that person question every single thing about their life. That's just very hurtful. You know, they told me stories over and over, and they made no distinction between biological kids and their adoptive kids, because as far as they were concerned, my brother and I were no different than even you know, kids that they would have had themselves. But the biggest right thing that my parents did was to teach me about the one who never abandons, who never rejects, who comforts the brokenhearted, and who heals and comforts and is unconditional love and grace. And you know, Jesus was adopted too by Joseph. And God also adopts us into his family. We are heirs with his natural son, Jesus. We are grafted into that heavenly and spiritual family, just like those adopted were grafted into a family that they don't even share any biology with. So it is our choice as adoptees to accept that adoption and adopt him back, you know, adopt God back to gain all of those benefits as a natural child would. There is rich spiritual heritage and acceptance and healing from all your struggles in life. And I believe being adopted has really helped me understand on a much deeper level when I think Paul talks about adoption in Ephesians, and it is like kind of that weight loss product or that builder. You know, I know that this approach works, and I want to share it. I want you to overcome your abandonment, your shame, and your fear. And I know that I can help you replace all these things with your authentic self and who God created you to be. I want you to have joy in life and calm in all your details, and maybe even the ones you don't even know about. I can help you close the gap between what you believe and what you feel and your ideal self by applying this approach that I know works. Because our stories are different, but the concepts that I teach are universal. And basically, for over 2,000 years, these concepts have been taught by generation and handed down and handed down. And if longevity is proof positive that something works, then I am proof positive that these concepts work. They still work after 2,000 years. So the first thing you have to do is to decide. If you are tired of being oppressed by your feelings, feeling like a victim, upset at the actions that you continually make, or even actions that other people have inflicted on you, if you feel confrontational all the time, decide you're going to learn positive new ways to think about your circumstances. Decide to have an open mind and heart to believe something new and different, because you know what the definition of insanity is, right? Doing something over and over again and expecting different results. That just doesn't work. So let me help you tear down the veil to reveal your purpose. Decide that you won't belittle others with different opinions. Decide to learn to let all the loss and the unknown and the regret just go. Decide to let that go, or at least decide to try. So incidentally, that is stage 1 in my program. If you're feeling oppressed, can you only see your perspective and you really believe everybody else is wrong? Or if other people do have a different opinion, does that trigger you to just be angry? Do you feel like you're the victim? Do you constantly see negativity in all situations and just gripe about it or withdraw? Do you really see no meaning in your life? So stage 1 identifies your struggles and your beliefs and your mindset surrounding your life. I do not believe that it is a mistake that you are listening to this right now and that you've gotten this far. You are not a mistake, and your situation is not unredeemable. Your life has purpose and meaning, and I love the verse in Acts 17:26 that says, "He marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their land." God did this so that they would seek and perhaps reach out to him and find him, though he is not far from any of us. That first action is to decide. Decide to believe God has marked out your appointed time in history and is working behind the scenes for you. Decide that you can use all these details in your story to find purpose and meaning in your life and to help others. Are you struggling with this never-ending flowchart of what ifs? Are you putting your hope in a life that you don't even know anything about because you really think the grass is greener on the other side? Are you connected with events? Are you concerned with events that will probably never even happen? Did you know that 90% of what we worry about never even happens? And the other 10% is really just managed by a positive reaction. So I want to help you embrace your present. I want to help you take your finger off the trigger happy mindset that, becomes this ripple effect of uncontrollable actions. I want to share this approach that I have learned because I know it works. And it helped me accept my family. It helped me accept myself. And it helped me accept my past. The 7 stages of overcoming adoption struggles will help you reframe your story and reframe, this picture that you have. I want to help you examine beliefs that you hold about yourself and about others that's related to adoption. I want to help you identify your biggest obstacle and struggle with adoption. I want to tear down lies that you hold about all 3 facets of adoption: the adoptee, the birth mom, and the adoptive mom. I want to determine where you are stuck, and I want to help you rebuild a bridge of support. I want to help you create a plan to move forward in hope, and I want to help you change the way you react to situations in your life. This program fills in the gaps between who you want to be and your ideal self and who you have become. You know what you want, but maybe you just don't know how to get there. These gaps, I want to help you fill them in by giving you coping skills and new thought patterns and developing compassion and understanding and a new mindset about struggles. The strategies I teach create a bridge to your ideal self from where you are right now. You know, that person that you forgot to be. I decided a long time ago that I was going to intentionally focus and refocus on something positive. And how do I do that? So one strategy that I teach is based on 1 Thessalonians 5:18. It says to give thanks in all circumstances. It does not say to give thanks for the circumstances. We're not supposed to say, yay, cancer. But we are supposed to, in that cancer or in that loss or in that death, we are supposed to find something to be thankful for. Maybe it's love and cards and meals and that concern from other people that we can be thankful for. I have a friend who says that even though she's extremely sad that her mama passed away, that she can be thankful that she knows she's in heaven and she's not suffering anymore. And that gives her so much comfort. And even in adoption, you can give thanks. You can give thanks for life. You can give thanks that your birth mother chose to give you life. You can be thankful for all the support, and you can find something to be thankful for. So, if you are living with adoption struggles and they are affecting you negatively, it makes me wonder if other areas of your life are also being affected, like your relationships or maybe your mental health, which in turn is going to affect your physical health. Because if you feel stressed about an area of your life, it's going to affect other things. Maybe you feel tired or overwhelmed. You know, does it pain you to keep doing the same things over and over with no way out? The 7 stages that I have help you move to a higher plane of thinking. They help you reach your ideal version of yourself. And in turn, that positively affects your relationships and your physical health and your mental health too. You know, your body begins to feel better, and you can have these steps to recover. My course closes the gap between pain and healing, between chaos and calm, and between being stuck and moving forward. I want to meet you at the top of this mountain where I have learned to be. The strategies that I want to share are timeless and trustworthy. But you have to decide first to take the first step, because I know if you don't take the first step, there is no way that you can get to the second step, because you can't hop over the first step. And the first step is to try. The path may not be straight, and it may not be smooth to the top of this mountain, but the view from the summit is totally worth it. So, what would finally break that glass ceiling for you? Would feeling free be worth it to you? 7 stages of overcoming adoption struggles will transform your mindset to have no triggers accept yourself, accept your birth mother's story, and accept your adoptive parents' concerns too. Understanding all three facets of adoption is so important. And sharing your story for the benefit of others is the ultimate goal, because God places something in us that we need to share to help others in similar situations. So to close, who is ready to unpack rejection, unpack guilt, unpack fear surrounding all of your adoption issues? Who is ready to repack your mind with acceptance and forgiveness and love? Who is ready to examine themselves, to identify their obstacles, to tear down that hedge of lies and rebuild it using a well-crafted plan that I will help you with to think differently in the future? Who is ready to bridge that gap between who you are and who you want to be? My program works, and I have already given you some strategies to take home. And I hope that you can use those to refocus on what you are grateful for. I hope you can share and you can ask about your heritage with your family and adopt it back as your own. I know some of you are already thinking of reasons why you can't participate in this 7-week program, but maybe you work full time and maybe you have kids that are pulling you in all directions. Maybe you are acting like you have it all together when deep down you're really not. And if you started to take this program, then people would look at you and judge you and be really confused, because on the outside, you always look like you have it together and things are great. Well, let me tell you a little secret. 7 weeks from now will come and go, whether you are taking this journey with me or not. And then the next 7 weeks will come and go, and then the next. You might as well feel better in the next 7 weeks with these strategies that I have for you. I want you to feel better in the next 7 weeks than you do today. And you can do that. I am ready for you to take action and to be committed to elevating your mindset and aim higher than you ever thought that you could go. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So Paul was referring to being content in all situations. That's what he was talking about there. Does that sound good? That is the key scripture to the 7 stages of overcoming adoption struggles. You can be content in the not knowing. So I chose not to locate my birth father. Find out how. I can see that as a blessing when you take this course. You can be content in what you have instead of dwelling on what you don't. And you can learn how to press forward and leave the past in the past. You can learn the secrets to being content, even in the hardest of situations, maybe in abuse or neglect, rejection or heartache. I mean, if you've read what Paul went through, Paul was flogged 3 times, he was shipwrecked, he was snake bitten, he was put in jail, and he even still wrote, I have found the secret to be content. It doesn't have anything to do with your situation. It doesn't have anything to do with your adoption issues. And I want to share that secret of how to be content. This is for you if you are ready to be who you forgot to be. If you are ready to put the past behind you, if you are ready to have a softened heart for different perspectives, and if you are ready to break the chains that have bound you to bitterness, or maybe worry, or maybe even selfishness. So spots and times are limited because I'm a busy person too, and I have limited spots for you to sign up for. But I want you to go to my shop on my website, Steeped in Purpose, and sign up for the 7 strategies to overcome adoption struggles for $4.99. If you want a free 30-minute session to get more information, you can book that too, and we can just chat to see if coaching is right for you. So the 7 strategies to overcoming struggles is a 7-week program with 4 complimentary coaching sessions that you schedule at your convenience. It's for $4.99 or for 2 payments of $249.50. And I believe nothing happens if you're going to start tomorrow, because tomorrow never happens. It's always today. It's always present. So presently, I want you to go to www.steepedinpurpose.com, and you can go to the /shop, and you can find a time that works best for you, and you can book online and reserve that spot right now. If this is for you, don't delay, because I do have limited spots. I want to help you end your struggles with your adoption issues now. And so if you've really hung out with me for this long, you have really learned that healing and peace and hope for adoptees and birth mothers and adoptive parents is attainable. I want you to come hang out with me for 7 weeks. I want to help you apply healing and peace and hope to your life. Your mind and body and your soul will really be glad you did. So you can also find me on a Facebook page called Steeped in Purpose. And I have started a new group that I have created called Adopt ×3. It's the word adopt with the big X and then THREE, Adopt ×3. And this group is different than any other group that I have found, because I represent adoptees, birth mothers, and adoptive moms all at the same time. We absolutely have to come into that group being compassionate listeners and offering grace. But that group is different than any other group. So if you're interested and you have adoption issues, I want you to come and join me on my Facebook page, Adopt ×3. So you can also sign up for my blog on my homepage of Steeped in Purpose. It's called Purpose Periodicals, and that's where my blogs will be sent directly to your email. And I hope to see you in one of these areas soon. And like my mom always says, every single time I leave her, God bless and keep. So thank you guys. I hope to see you soon.